On June 12, 2026, a company most people have never bought a single thing from put a number on a screen. $2 trillion. And for about a second, you felt something. Then nothing. The number was too big to land. It slid right off. That's not a flaw in you. That's the whole trick. Your brain is good with the numbers it evolved for: how many people at the table, how many days until the food runs out. It was never built for 2 trillion of anything. So it does the only thing it can. It rounds the number up to a lot and moves on. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to build you a ladder, step by step, comparison by comparison, until 2 trillion stops being a blur. And there's one comparison I'm saving for the end. Once you see it, this number changes forever. I run the math on the things that are designed to slide past you. That's the whole job here. Not to tell you what to buy or sell. I'm not going to do that, and you should be careful with anyone who will. The job is to take numbers built to be too big to question, and make them small enough to hold in your hand. So you stop nodding along to figures nobody in the room actually understands, including many of the people repeating them. Want more of this? Subscribe. We do exactly this every week. So let's build the ladder. First rung. Here's the strange part about a number like 2 trillion. You already know it's big. You don't need me to tell you that. What you can't know is how big. And it's not because you're bad at math. It's because of the specific way the human mind handles scale. Researchers have a name for what's happening in your head right now. Psychologist Paul Slovic and his colleagues called it psychophysical numbing. Your emotional response to a number doesn't grow in a straight line. Flattens out. The jump from 1 to 2 feels enormous. The jump from 1,000 to 2,000 you barely register. By the time you're in the millions, adding another million lands as basically nothing. So a million, a billion, a trillion all get dropped into the same drawer in your head. The drawer labeled huge. Your intuition genuinely believes a million and a trillion are cousins. They aren't even from the same planet. Let's climb the ladder. Let's start with the fact, clean. SpaceX went public this month. It priced at $135 a share, opened at $150, and closed its first day worth more than $2 trillion. 2 trillion. Write it out and it's a 2 with 12 zeros behind it. 2,000 billion. 2 million million. You can say the words, but try to actually feel the size of it and you'll notice the same thing: nothing happens. Let me try to make it physical. Imagine the whole thing in $100 bills, the biggest note most people ever hold. Stack them. 20 billion bills, laid flat on top of each other. Climb to about 2,000 kilometers high. The International Space Station orbits at 400. So your stack would punch right through the space station. Keep going and end up more than 5 times higher than the space station itself. That's the number made out of paper. And here's the paradox that makes this worth 20 minutes of your time. That number, towering 5 times past the edge of space, is at the very same moment absolutely enormous and weirdly small. It is bigger than things you think of as gigantic. And it is smaller than things you use every single day without thinking. Both of those are true. Hold on to how strange that is, because by the end you'll understand exactly how a single number can be both. So let's stop saying the words and start building comparisons your brain can't slide off of. For rungs, and we climb them in order. Time first, because everyone has the same amount of it. Then the economy. Then the companies. And then last you. Each rung is bigger than you expect, until the last one, which goes somewhere you won't expect at all. Start with time, because time is the one scale every person on Earth shares. You can't make more of it. A second is a second, whether you're broke or you just took a rocket company public. Picture this. You're handed a machine that pays you $1 every single second. Not every hour. Every second. Tick, $1. Tick, another. It never stops, it never sleeps, it doesn't take weekends or holidays. $1 a second, around the clock, while you eat, while you sleep, while you live your whole life. Forever. It sounds incredible. $1 a second is about $31 million a year, just pouring in while you do nothing. You'd be rich in a week. Rich beyond rich in a year. Now I want you to guess. How long would that machine need to run to pay you $2 trillion? Most people land somewhere around a really long time. A few years, maybe a whole lifetime if they're feeling generous. Pick your own number before I tell you, because the gap between your guess and the answer is the entire lesson. The machine would need to run for 63,000 years. 63,000. Not a typo, not a lifetime. About 800 human lifetimes, stacked end to end, each earning $1 every second, with nothing ever spent. To put a foot on that, humans started farming about 10,000 years ago. That's where we draw the start of civilization. Your machine would have had to switch on more than 6 times over before the first seed was ever planted. And it would still be running right now, today, just to reach the number SpaceX hit in a single afternoon. That's not a statistic. That's the entire span of human history, run 6 times over 1 second at a time. And it barely fits inside one company's opening bell. Now here's why I made you guess. Let me show you the rungs below this one. At $1 a second, $1,000 takes about 17 minutes. $1 million takes about 11.5 days. Still reasonable, you can picture 11 days. But $1 billion, the thing we put in front of someone's name like a title, $1 billion takes 32 years. That's a career. That's most of a working life, every second of it, just to hit 1 billion. And 2 trillion? 63,000 years. Sit with that gap. 1 million is 11 days. 1 billion is 32 years. 2 trillion is 63,000 years. 1 billion and 1 trillion get said in the same breath, filed in the same drawer, treated like neighbors. They're not even close. The jump from 1 million to 1 billion is already weeks to 1/3 of a century. The jump from 1 billion to 2 trillion is one career to the whole human story. This is the numbing live. You hear billionaire and trillion-dollar company in one sentence, and your brain sets them side by side. But the distance between them is the distance between one person's working life and the entire history of organized humanity. And the reason your gut can't feel that distance isn't stupidity. It's design. Your mind was tuned to track the dozen people in your tribe. It was never given a setting for thousands of years of $1 a second. So when that number arrives, the gauge just pins at a lot and quits. So here's how it shows up. You scroll past billion and trillion, back to back, and give them the same small shrug. That shrug feels like understanding. It's the opposite. It's your brain telling you it gave up. There's a comparison that matters even more. Not history, not the government. It comes right after the companies. Hold on to that. Second rung. Let's leave one person and one machine behind and look at what a whole country produces. You've heard the phrase, the economy your whole life. It's the biggest number in the room always. Every car, every haircut, every app subscription, every cup of coffee, every hour of every worker. All added together is what's called GDP. The entire United States produces about $32 trillion a year. That's everything. 340 million people working for 12 straight months. So where does our 2 trillion sit against that? It's about 6% of it. One company, valued at 6% of everything the most productive economy in human history makes in a year. Put another way, for about every $16 the country produces, one of them is the size of this single company. Imagine the whole American economy is a year of work for everyone. Now slice off the first 23 days of the year. That slice, the output of the entire nation for the first 3 weeks and change, is one company's opening day price tag. It gets sharper when you stop comparing to the whole economy and start comparing to the things the government actually spends money on. The United States spends around $895 billion a year on its entire military. Every base, every carrier, every salary, every jet. 2 trillion is more than twice that. You could fund the whole American military for 2 full years on this one company's opening price and still have money left in the drawer. Or take the interest. Not the debt, just the yearly interest the government pays for having borrowed. Around 970 billion. 2 trillion is more than twice that too. One company is worth 2 years of what it costs just to service the debt. Here's the one that does it for me, though. Older estimates put the cost of winning the Second World War at about $4 trillion in 2011 money, over $5 trillion in today's dollars. The entire thing. 5 years, 2 oceans, 16 million Americans in uniform, the largest mobilization the country has ever attempted. The country spent more than this entire company to win the largest war in human history. One company went public for about the same price. And before you decide the US is simply uniquely gigantic, watch this. In a single recent fiscal year, the national debt grew by about $2.2 trillion. In 1 year, just by spending more than it collected, the US added more to its debt than this entire company is worth. Break it down and the government takes on debt at roughly $6 billion a day. It adds a whole SpaceX to the tab in under a year, and nobody throws a launch party. The number we keep calling unimaginable is something a government piles on quietly, on a schedule, while everyone shrugs. A number this big stops meaning anything. That's the point. So here's how that rung lands in your life. It's the moment a politician says trillion, and you feel the same nothing you felt at the start of this video. The country runs on numbers your brain filed under huge and forgot. That's not your failure. It's the scale doing exactly what it does. Third rung. And this is where the ladder flips on you. So far, every comparison has made 2 trillion feel enormous. 6 times the age of farming. Twice the military. Half a world war. You're probably settling in, comfortable that this is one of the biggest numbers a private thing can be. Good. Hold that. Watch what happens when we stop comparing to countries and wars, and start comparing it to other companies. Here's what nobody says when the headline hits. 2 trillion, the number worth half a world war, is smaller than Amazon. Amazon is worth somewhere near 2.7 trillion. Microsoft right around 3 trillion. Apple around 4.4 trillion. Alphabet, that's Google, about 4.5. And Nvidia, the company that mostly makes chips, sits above $5.1 trillion. Read that back slowly. The number too big to feel is smaller than every single one of the 5 most valuable companies on the planet. The company that launches rockets and lands them upright on a barge in the ocean is worth less than the company that delivers your coffee pods to your porch. That's the paradox from the beginning, finally paid in full. 2 trillion is genuinely, mathematically enormous. And it is also not even in the top 5 companies on Earth. Both true. Same number, same day, same screen. Want to feel how strange that is from one more angle? $2 trillion is roughly comparable to the entire yearly output of Canada. It's about what Italy produces in a year. It's about what Brazil produces. And Brazil has 213 million people in it. The amount one company is worth on paper is about what an entire G20 nation generates in a year. And it's still smaller than Apple. Here's the part that reaches into your wallet. Your brain can't tell 2 trillion from 5 trillion. They're both just huge. So when someone tells you one company is a bargain and another is overpriced, and the numbers have 12 zeros, you have no intuition left to check them against. You're being sold a comparison in a language your gut stopped being able to read somewhere back around $1 billion. The scale broke your ruler, and then an industry sells you things measured in exactly the range you can't read. So here's how it shows up. You see 2 giant numbers in a headline and shrug at both. And you let a guy with a confident voice tell you which one is the deal. You handed over the comparison because the numbers were too big to hold. And the comparison was the only thing in the room that mattered. Now, that last rung I promised you, it isn't history. It isn't the government. It isn't even the other companies. It's you. 4th rung. Let's bring it all the way down to a single person, to you. Because this is where the number finally turns into something with teeth. Start with what's normal. The typical American household earns about $83,700 a year. That's the middle of the country. Half of families make more, half make less. You can picture the house behind it, the 2 cars, the Sunday grocery run. Now we're going to stack those households up until they equal $2 trillion. Start counting. One family's whole year. Then 1,000. Then 1,000,000. You need almost 24 million of them. Almost 24 million households. Everyone working a full year, pooling every dollar before a cent comes out for taxes. That's what it takes to match one company's opening price. That's almost 1 out of every 6 households in the entire United States. 1 in 6. A full year. All of it. Or shrink it back to one person. You, on that income, saving like a machine, 20% of everything, every year, never once slipping. How long until you reach 2 trillion? 119 million years. Our species is only about 300,000 years old. You'd have needed to start saving 400 times over before there were any humans to do the saving. The number doesn't just beat a lifetime. It beats the existence of people. So forget earning it. Forget saving it. Let's just hand it to you. $2 trillion sitting in your account this morning. And your one job in life is to spend it all before you die. You've got, say, 80 good years. How fast do you have to move? $68 million. A day. Every single day for 80 straight years. Or you will die with money left over. A mansion before lunch, another after. You cannot shop your way through it. You cannot personally spend your way through it. And here is the comparison I've been saving since the first 30 seconds. The one that changes the number permanently. You can't even outspend it. Watch. As a thought experiment, assume that 2 trillion earns a nominal 5% a year. 5%, nothing dramatic, just a flat assumption. That alone throws off $100 billion a year. Run that to a daily figure and it's about $274 million a day. So you're sprinting to spend 68 million a day. And the pile is growing by 274 million a day, just sitting there. It's growing 4 times faster than the hardest spending human alive could empty it. Every day you fall another 200 million further behind. On a fortune you are actively, desperately trying to destroy. You will die, and it will be bigger than the day you started. That's the line where the number leaves human scale completely. Below a certain amount, money is a thing you use, you earn it, you spend it, it runs out. But above a certain line, money flips. It grows on its own, faster than any person can spend it, answering to no one's effort. It stops being a number about a life and becomes a number about a system. 2 trillion is so far past that line the line isn't even visible from up there. A number this big stops meaning anything. And now you know that's not a glitch in your head. It's the truth about the number itself. Now let me be fair, because you should be suspicious of anyone making numbers feel dramatic, including me. A sharp person will push back here. They'll say, you're cheating. Comparing a company's valuation to a country's GDP is mixing 2 different things. GDP is a flow, what gets produced in a year. A valuation is a stock, what something is worth at a single moment. They don't go in the same equation, and they're right about that. So let me be precise. I'm not saying SpaceX is 70% of an Amazon, or truly worth 2 military budgets. A valuation is a bet on the future, not a pile of cash sitting in a vault. These comparisons aren't equations. They're rulers, different ways to lay the same length against something you already understand. And that's the actual point. When you need 5 completely different rulers and the number still won't hold still, you've found the edge of where your intuition works. That's the real discovery, not the number, the edge. All right, you see the trick now. Let's talk about what to actually do with it. Because this is the part you get to keep. This was never really about SpaceX and never about rockets. It's about every time someone puts a number in the trillions in front of you and counts on it sliding right off. A budget, a valuation, a bailout, a market cap, a national debt. The bigness is doing work on you, and usually it's working against you. So here are 3 moves. First, convert it to time. Dollars per second is the cheapest reality check there is. A billion is 32 years. A trillion is 32,000. The instant you run that, billion and trillion snap back to their real distance. Second, convert it to something you own. How many median paychecks is it? How many years of your actual life? A figure means nothing floating in the abstract and everything the moment it touches a unit you live inside. Third, the real one. When someone uses a giant number to rush you, to make it sound too big to question, that is the exact moment to slow all the way down. The size of a number is not an argument. It never was. Usually a number that big is standing in for an argument the person would rather you didn't ask for. So, let's close the loops. I told you at the start I'd build a ladder, and that I was saving one comparison for the end. $2 trillion is 6 times the entire history of farming, 1 second at a time. It's twice the most expensive military on Earth. It's half the Second World War. It's the entire yearly output of Canada. And still smaller than the company that ships your packages. Every one of those is true at once. You can hold them now because you stopped trying to feel the number and started standing next to it. And that last rung, the fortune that grows faster than any human can spend it. That's the real lesson hiding inside an IPO headline. There's a scale of money that stops being about people and starts being about systems. Most of us will never see it, never touch it. And most importantly, never need to fear the version of it that gets waved at us to make us nod along. Here's what to carry out. Next time a number too big to feel lands on your screen, don't reach for the feeling. It won't come. Reach for the latter instead. A number this big stops meaning anything. That's the point. Don't let it be the point on you. If this changed how one number looks to you, there's a whole shelf of them I take apart the same way. Subscribe and I'll see you at the next one.